and he wasn't going to come back until the afternoon, so nobody knew, and he didn't want to go there and wake his parents up because they would have told him off for waking up in the morning. However, we've now got this lad, and he says, "Where's Roger?" alongside the wall. Well, what had happened, the lad could swim, and he did swim. He swam to the side of the quay wall, but when he got there, he couldn't get out the water. He was like clawing with the tide, you know, and it was winter time, and he wasn't there. By the time we got there, he said this lad was alongside the wall trying to get out the water, and he got to the side but couldn't get out the water, so the poor lad drowned. Now after that, I thought, oh, I don't know, I fancy doing that, you know. I don't know. So I thought I'd better do what I could, and we'll try and organise these lads, and I'll make sure they can all swim and all row and not be frightened of being in a boat that's sinking and capsizing. So so it started, and I mean, really, I lived in some ways like a life of Riley, because whatever I want, say, go and get that, go and do this, go and do that, you know, do this, coil that rope, do this. And these lads, they couldn't wait to do it, you know, they all wanted to do something. And I taught them all to, well, I say I taught them all, I taught a lot of them to be able to swim, and be able to row a boat and scull a boat across the harbour, you know, and only little lads, but they were all very confident. And it got to the stage where we would have, what happens if you fall over? Well, we'll find out. Get in, you know, and push him in, you see. And then they had to know how to climb out. And then it became, what we're going to do now is, I thought, well, I'll just chuck them over. And they decided to sort of gang up with being chuck me over. And this became quite a thing then. Most of the times I won, but some of the times they won. And I mean, I can remember one day there was a lot of sniggering going on, you know, and I thought, what are you sniggering about, you know, there's something funny going on here. But I had noticed that, oh, blooming head, you know, when I'm wrestling with these lads, I mean, blooming head, every time I had a bad head. And I heard one he was, they were rubbing my head on the floor. And he was taking his scalp off and bleeding. I got bang on there now. And my head was bleeding, that's why they were laughing. And they used to rub my head on the floor. Once I found that out, we sorted that out. Now another one that comes to my mind, and this may be in the times when Lee was there, we were all heading out to sea one day, and this was Phil Tye. He's a skipper of one of these windmill boats at the moment, operating out of Liverpool. And young Phil was with me, and we're heading out to sea now with the anglers all can't wait to go fishing, you know. And Phil was walking along the edge of the boat, the gunnel, what you call the gunnel, you know, the spit was that wide walking along. So I thought, I've told him about this, so I went over and shoved him over, and the people are looking at me, you know, this kid's in the water, drifting down, well, the boat's carried on its own, see. He says, you shoved him in? Yeah. He says, are you going to pick him up? I says, well, he said, well, you shoved him in. I said, yeah, but I've told him, I don't know how many times, if he falls in, and I don't know, he's going to be in trouble. He didn't tell me he was going to walk alongside the boat, and I did warn him. So this example, well, how far out? I said, a couple of miles, I suppose. He said, well, I'm going back. I said, no, I'll leave him. I'll leave him. So you can't leave the kid out, he'll never get back. I said, oh, he'll be all right, don't worry. Anyhow, I went in and called on the radio. By then we got little walkie-talkies, which weren't very, about a couple of miles at the most. Got on the radio to the boat behind me and said, as you come along, I says, you'll see Phil, pick him up, you can keep him with you for the day if you want, you know. Well, it was always nice to have a lad with you, because they were very handy. They'd pump the boats out and make you cups of tea and serve them and all that, you know. So, anyhow, so that's, I chucked this kid over the side, and right, and the party were a bit quiet, to say the least, with me. They weren't impressed with what I'd done. Anyhow, about a week later, I had a letter off the council to go to the council offices. So when I went there, they didn't say what it was about. When I went there, and they said, we've got this letter from such and such an angling club, Darwin Sea Anglers, I think, and they said that you pushed a young lad over the side of the boat and didn't pick him up. And when the boats came in, he wasn't there, and he's still there. So I said, oh, yeah, I said, yeah, that's right, yeah. He said, is that true? I said, yeah. I said, what, you push him over for? I said, I told him in case he fell in, he needs to realise what it's about. They said, you told him it was about 2 miles out. I said, yeah, it was. They said, what happened to the lad? I said, the boat behind picked him up. Well, he didn't say that. I said, didn't tell him. Well, I said, I just never thought to tell him. I said, well, they were very quiet with me all the time. So that was that little story. Yeah. Anyhow, it all worked out right, but I did have a bit of a rollicking off the council with doing it. I mean, we didn't actually have, there wasn't a harbour master or anyone really in charge. We had what they called a boating inspector, but all he was supposed to do was make sure the boats were okay and that the weather wasn't too rough for us to go out in. And we did get out there quite rough at times, wasn't it? Yeah. When you think of the state of the boats then. Oh, crikey. And yeah, so that was that one. But so we've had great times with the fishing and the shrimping. Oh, another one, yeah, shrimps. Shrimps. Now we used to trawl for shrimps. Nobody does it now. We used to trawl for shrimps around and we got masses of them. Not always, but when they were there, you get masses of them. And we used to boil these shrimps on the boat. You had to salt them and boil them on the boat with seawater. And initially we had coal wood fires just in a drum that they cut out. I mean, I burnt a hole in the bottom of the road once. It was going so well. But then we started on gas. We started using gas, which meant we could row on. The jets were like that, you know, and the bottle of gas, that size bottle of gas, when we were busy, we could use that in a day. And all the ice running down the sides of it, you know, it was coming out so fast. Now then, the lads were great, because boiling them was easy, but sorting them was a different thing. We all had riddles, you see, you had to riddle these, you know, and throwing the bits out. And the birds are picking them up like mad things, you know, and until you got a nice clean riddle full of shrimps, and then it used to fill I think it was a 5-gallon bucket, and a 5-gallon bucket would be tipped into the boiler to boil these shrimps. And of course the water's bubbling, drop these shrimps in, give it a stir, the water would go down because we got very cold with this 5 gallons of shrimps and water chucked in it, but within moments the thing was boiling and all the froth had come off, you know, and the first boiling was nearly always rubbish. It was clean, but rubbish. As it got thicker and thicker and thicker, and the froth would be coming over the top, you know, and that really was when the shrimps really tasted their best. Now then, the youngsters with me, I was about the only one who used to take a group of them out, you know, and I'll get them, and yeah, these youngsters used to love to eat the shrimps because they'd love to pick. Occasionally we got prawns, which were about that big, but there wasn't very many of them, and boom, they always beat me to it, you know. So they were doing very well, they knew how to do it, and of course we could all pick shrimps and all that. And sometimes when we landed, went to the promenade, sort of finished the day, you come ashore, you have to carry these up onto the prom, up these steps, before we had a slope built on it, and you put them there, because by then we had to get a form of transport, and last time for us, it was like going in, most of us had battered old vans then, but you could carry them on the carrier bikes, but it got too much. And what we started to do, because we were getting so many, was send them to London, these shrimps to London, and they went on the train, and we put them in sandbags to transport them to London. But on the promenade initially, we'd have them in the basket, a lot of it being in these fish baskets. And of course we'd all be eating there. Anyone who came along could eat them, you know, if you two came along. And, are you selling them? Well, are they fresh? Yeah, they're fresh. You know, so people would start, and anyone who wanted them. I can't ever remember stopping anyone from eating the shrimps there. And you know, and they would buy them. Yeah, okay, I think I must away now. But anyway, there was, of course, the promenade then was covered with shrimp shells, wasn't it? You'd eat the shrimps and just chip the shells on the floor, which was never a problem, because once you got out the road, the seagulls would have them. But, assuming that you two have taken your dog for a walk, love shrimps. Love some. All the shells and wolf the shells down, and you'd think, I hope they walk away. Because About like a big sausage like that, of all the shells inside, you know, they pumped it up. But I had a great time with the youngsters. And another thing I came across, or I thought of, was that really high value shrimps are pig shrimps with a lot of money. You know, a bucket full of shrimps makes like one glass of pig shrimps, and they're worth a lot more money. Don't take as much room either. Now the kids were always experts at picking shrimps, and they came to me one day. I'll tell you what, how many shrimps can you eat? You know, oh, what do you mean? How many shrimps can you get in your mouth? Well, I don't know, 30 easy. I don't think so. Oh. So then 6 lads maybe, it could be 3, it could be 8, you'd all be picking these shrimps. Right, now, come on now, keep it fair, you know, they got all these things. Oh, maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. But the others haven't done it, have they? Because they were going to do it afterwards. I said, no, we'll leave it at that. I thought I'm doing it wrong here. So I said, what I want you to do now is to fill, in those days, there were pint glasses, weren't they, in the pubs, which was across the road. So we'd have a glass. Now then, what I want you to do now is, the first one, to fill one of those glasses with pink shrimps, level £1. £1? Yeah. So, at the end of it, I've got 6 pint glasses full of pink shrimps for £1. So it took them a while before they and another thing I started, the other thing was, it got to the stage where really I was going out, I was really going out with these crew lads, and there was a variety. I thought, I'll give them a share of the catch, share the catch out. A quarter of what I get for them will be shared out amongst the crew lads. So sharing out, and they haven't got a clue what they were getting. So how do you know I'm paying you right? Well, why wouldn't you? I said, well, don't you know? So I then started to tell them to work it out, how much they were going to get in their share, whether it be 3 or 6 of them, you know, and what the price was, because the prices varied each day. So next thing, within no time at all, they were telling me within pennies how much I owed them all. They never told me when I'd overpaid them, only when they were running a bit short. But it worked well. I mean, I was hopeless at school, but I mean, I got on that, and yeah, it was great. And then another thing that happened was that with the youngsters again was the boat show, London Boat Show. Now, Real Lifeboat Station organised a special train to the boat show, which started off at Holyhead and went all the pickups and went to there. And it was the time when the shrimps were about, you see. So these youngsters, I forget how it started now, but it got to the stage where there's quite a few of them. And I think it probably ended up with like 8 or 9 of them coming with me. Sometimes my wife was with me, sometimes she wasn't. But let's say she was with me, and we've got these 8 youngsters. Now then, have you any children? Yeah?
Yeah.
Lads?
Girls.
Girls? I don't know. Let's say one of them's a lad. Now then your lad decides, or thinks he'd like to come to London Boat Show. It's London, you know, not real. You know, it's London, there's escalators. What are they? There's a staircase, lifts. You know, there's nowhere in real 3 floors high, is there? So, right, now then, there's those that knew how it worked and those that didn't. Now Lee was crewing with one of the posher lads, Mr. Campini. He always liked to go nicely dressed. Lee was always nicely dressed. He did come with me, but most of the time he went with Peter, because still the story which I'll come to on that. Right, so we're going to go. So your lad wants to come out with me. He's one of the crew lads, so you know that he goes down the harbour and he's doing this, and he comes home every day soaking wet and filthy. But one thing he does is, as soon as he gets home and he stops moaning about, I don't like that to eat, I don't like that to eat, just muff it down. So I would send instructions after couple of trips there, and I thought I'd better do something about this. So I was going now to send, your lad wants to come with me. So, okay, take this note to your mother, and the note would say, Johnny, maximum of £5. That's the most he must have with him. Must have old clothes, old shoes. Yeah, old clothes and old shoes. And so that's how, when you got the note, you'd think, oh, he's going out, you know, go to London, you know, he should have his best shoes on. Yeah, they can't go anywhere, he can't walk, you mustn't stub your toes, you know, so it's old clothes and that, and the £5, I would tell you that when they arrive, I'm going to take the £5 off them, and they're going to have no money. Now, why do you think, ooh, thank you very much. Most welcome.
If you want, just open those windows,
Right, well, the thing is, these lads come there like that to London, and I mean, you know, everything's brilliant, isn't it? But, oh, by the way, the train going to London, we usually used to take shrimps on that and give them away, because there are lifeboat people on the train, so there'd be, and the youths, once again, the youngsters were very handy, because I could always get a compartment to myself. Because we'd hired the train, and there were compartments mostly in those days. So what I would do, I'd say, go and get us a compartment and tell me when you got it. And they'd go in there and they'd start angry, wouldn't they? And then you'd move out, and he'd move out, and someone else would move out. There's no one left with these kids, and they come and see, we go in there, our group, and we got a compartment to ourselves. And they used to go fetch and carry for anybody. I mean, some people didn't like them doing it, so no, they shouldn't do that really, you know. So they were always lads. I don't think we ever took a girl with us, but a few girls did come on the boat. And you know, so that's what we would do with them, going to the boat show, and of course once you got to the bar, as I say, on the station drill, right, give us your money, your £5, you know. And I remember one lad doing him by the ankles until his money dropped out of his pockets. Now, why do you think I wanted the money? Why do you think I wanted the money? Haven't you got an idea?
Fare to London?
Sorry? Oh no, the fare to London, so the tickets are all paid, that's sorted out. Now, £5 each.
So they
now,
wouldn't go to Soho with it?
Sorry?
So they wouldn't go to Soho with it?
I got quite a bit of dough in my pocket. But when you get to London and go into Earl's Court, I take it most of you, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's the size of real Earl's Court, isn't it, you know, a huge place. And in the middle there's a gigantic clock, you know, and we go there, so right, see that clock, see where we are now, yeah, see that clock, yeah, right. At 1 o'clock, we're having something to eat. I want you here. They've had nothing to eat. They've got no money to buy anything. At 1 o'clock, they're all here. Yeah? And there was those that knew and those that didn't know. So let's say there's 6 of them, and there's one new lad. I'll pick on Lee. Lee's the new lad. So what do you want, lads? You know, well, I'll have a sausage, and I'll have some curry, and I'll have this, and I'll have that, and I'll have the other, you see. And that's what they're going to have. And what I would do, we go in the chippy and say, sausage and chips 6 times, please. And then when it's handed out, I didn't order this. Where's he gone? I said, you said you didn't want it. Someone else was there who bunched it away. The others all knew that was going to happen. There was always the new lad that made a mix-up. He didn't make it mix-up the next time. He did one of those. So I never had a problem with them eating anything. And then coming home, I mean, they were nearly always asleep. And I mean, once or twice we had snowball fights in the compartments. I think Lee was with Peter one day, and they bought one of these great big, at the time, these magnets. You remember the magnets?
No, I don't.
Very powerful magnets.
String to get stuff off the off the wall.
And when he was going out the restaurant, you know, he went rather close to him, not intentionally, and boom, 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 the police. It's one of you had a job to pull them off, these magnets. We had them in the harbour. Most of us bought one, and they were good for boats. I put mine on a piece of rope so it would float round as the boat turned round in the harbour, pulling up all sorts of metal that was on it, usually rubbish. But yeah, it was good fun. They always picked something up. So those are the times with the lads down the harbour. And no, I don't know. Oh, well, yes, another one. Did you come round Anglesey?
Several times.
Eh?
Several times.
So they're coming out with me now, we're going to go round Anglesey, these youngsters, you see. So once again, off we go round Anglesey, and usually we'd stop at somewhere like Holyhead. But this particular time when I was going there, it was foggy. No GPSs on in those days. I thought, bloody charming. I mean, off Holyhead with a small boat amongst all those rocks is a bit dicey. We don't get fog at Rill, see, do we? Very rare fog at Rill. But apparently, anyhow, I could just about make the land out, and let me get closer. There's the quay wall. Oh, thank goodness for that. Anyhow, going in, there was a warship tied up alongside the quay wall. And I got me rowing boat, because we took a rowing boat when I was going round. Because it's going to take us a couple of days to go round. Sleep on the boat, the lads. Anyhow, this particular time there was a warship, foggy. Went alongside we moored the boat up, and the lads wanted to go for a row. I said, now be careful, don't go out of sight. Make sure you're not very far away, or I'll lose you, Anyhow, it wasn't long before they came back all sniggering and grinning. And what are you grinning about? Look what we got, what have you got? Where'd you get that from? We went on the boat, went on the ship and got it. It's the ensign off the stern of the warship. Guys! I got it, come past them and nick this flag. So I was telling him to take it back. But chuck it aboard, don't tell anyone. And then we went into Carnarvon, and I can go on forever with these stories with the kids. So one lad we used to call Fluff. He's still a good friend of ours. He's fishing full time on the northeast coast of a place called Amble, and he was very, very, very keen on fishing. And at Carnarvon we'd gone ashore, and when he came back, Fluff had chocolate cream donuts, the long ones, like fingers. That's what they are, yeah. Wouldn't share it. Oh no, you're going to share it. He bought them. Why, if he wanted one, why didn't he buy one? And that applied to me as well, even though they're his, which is fair play, they are his, and he doesn't want to share. Okay, so he'd want to share. But while he wasn't looking, I got a sandwich and put it in his, put the lid on, and said, now look, if you're going to make the best of it, you better get that down here, otherwise you're going to share it. And the other lads, I'm all laughing, and he went, It was tied on the deck with the eggs underneath him.
So, was that a big fill?
It could have been. Tied another one of the lads up to the deck of the boat on the foredeck. When he tied down and put some eggs on it, so can you arch your back like that? Can arch your back? Why, what are you doing? Well, don't lay yourself down. Why? There's eggs underneath you. The answer to that, of course, I think they realised if he broke the eggs, he'd have to be chucked in the sea to get it on. So we did all sorts of things with these youngsters. Now let's see what else can. Does anyone like to ask me any questions up to now, please?
I was going about the old land, sea mine that's on the road, or harbour there. What happened to that? I remember we just put
the pennies in.
Pennies in.
That was taken away. That was taken away some time ago. I don't know for why. But I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was out fishing one day, and I'm on my way now. It's evening time. It was in the summer, and the lights are twinkling from the pub in Ross-on-Sea. Well, half an hour before we get there, my wife called me up. By then we got a bit better radios. She called me up and she said, the Coast Guards want you to go to Pensarn. What for? I don't know. They want you to go to Pensarn, there's something going on there. I'm just coming in. Well, can you go there as soon as you've landed the passenger? So I landed the passenger, there was a few of the lads there. I think there was a couple of youngsters, and I can't remember who, but come on, we're going for a ride. We're going to Pensarn for some reason or other. We shouldn't be there long, because I've got to get back for the tide. So there was about 5 on the boat, I suppose. And we're heading down to Pensarn, and in the meantime, they managed to get through to me. The Coast Guard said, there's a mine on the beach. I had a special channel, the Coast Guard channel on my boat, on my radio. A few of the skippers did, not just me. but not everybody would get them, you know, this Channel Zero. And I was what they call an auxiliary afloat then. So there's a mine on the beach of Pensar. Mine on the beach of Pensar. And as we're approaching, we could see all the police lights there and quite a few people, you know. And, you know, we got there and anchored the boat off in shallow water and rowed the dinghy ashore. Yeah, I think we rowed the dinghy ashore. Anyhow, when we got there, oh yes, there is a mine. A whopper, just like the one you were saying about on the beach. Crikey, where's that come from? And the story was this. Mrs. Jones is having a walk along the beach. And as she's walking along the beach at Pensarn, she sees these little lads. And they've got big stones and they're hitting this mine, you know. And so she goes to the police station and says, I've just come along and I'd like to report that there's some children and they're hitting the mine on the beach with stones. And, you know, so he thought, oh, all right, Mrs. Jones. So, you know the police are you a Bobby? So anyhow, a week later, Mrs. Jones is going there again, or days later, and it's still there. She goes to the police station. Oh, she reported to the police station. Okay, Mrs. Jones, right. And now she goes there and says, well, I'm a different policeman there. And yes, what can I do for you? Mrs. Jones, I reported last week a mine on the beach. Oh, just a minute. Oh, yes. Can you tell what happened about it? I don't know. I'll make inquiries for you. I'll let you know. So off she goes. So the cop gets the phone and rings someone else. Says, what's this? So the policeman who logged it on that day, to which he said, be a mine, will there? She said, well, she's been in and said it's still there. What was it? Did you go and have a look? No, it bothers you. Go and have a mine, don't you? So the sergeant comes in, what's the matter about a mine? It's a mine on the beach of Pensarn. First I've heard this lady's reported twice now. Well, did you go and have a look? No. Get down there, goes down there. Oh my God, look at this, you know, it is a mine. So they get in touch with mine disposal on the south coast somewhere. And these blokes are coming up. Once again, when they were told there's a mine on the beach of Pensarn, oh, I've heard this before, you know. This great big thing sticking out the sand, oh my God. So they came up there, and when they got on the beach, oh my God, it is, look at it. 200 kilos of TNT in it, in perfect condition, nothing wrong with it. The kids weren't hitting it quite hard. So what's happened now, the idea is that these mine disposal lads were going to tow it out to sea and blow it up. That's the plan. The idea is that my boat's going to tow this mine out, half a mile or something like that, and blow it up. And we're on the beach, actually, we're on the beach there, and a photograph was taken. It was stood round this mine on the beach, you know. Yeah, and so we're towing it up, and the mine disposal blokes are with us. And what's going to happen now? You know, I was will it be much of a bang? It's 200. There's 200 kilos of TNT in that. He says, very big bang. So how far do we need to be away? He says, well, half a mile or something like that. I said, well, will we see much there? He says, oh, you'll see plenty. How close could we go? How close would you go, skipper? And I said, well, how safe would it be? He says, oh, we can halve that distance. We can halve it. He said, I've never been that close to one that's gone off, especially in shallow water, you know, because it wasn't very deep. It was only about, I don't know, 25, 30 feet deep. Oh, so I'll go. What about you lads? I didn't even involve the youngsters. There was a couple with me, but there was a couple of adults as well. And I said, "Oh, let's go for it, John." It was black calm. So there we are. We towed the mine out. It's got its explosives on it to blow it up. And of course, once they set it up, it's going to bang off all this TNT. And my boat's got a funny sort of platform I built on the top of the mast so I can go and stand and view around, you know. So and it was flat count, so I went up there and I'm looking, you know, and they're starting to count down there. I thought, I think I'm too close. It's a bit late then, isn't it? And next thing is, boom! And they did say the first thing you see is a flash under the boat. Oh yes, there was a flash, and then the next thing was he said there'd be a big thump on the side of the boat, which yes there was, like as if a lorry had hit it, you know. And then, any of you seen the film The Thief of Baghdad? An old one's been going forever, very famous. And the genie comes out the bottle and he's massive, you know, I'm free, and I thought, oh my God. And you can hear this explosion echoing all around the valley. Absolutely tremendous. I could see Dry Beach. And there was pebbles and stones. If it had gone off on the beach, by the way, if it had gone off on the beach where it would have taken the railway line out and put stones up to a mile away from, because there's perfect sized stones on the beach like that, and it would have, up to a mile they would have been scattered if it had gone off. So anyhow, the mine went off and nearly dead. You know?
Excuse me, in which year was that?
Oh, I can't quite remember, sir, but it would be, I went to Ross-on-Sea in 1983, so it would be 86 or something like that. It was in some of the national papers. So, it had gone off. Now, the interesting thing about after the event, and this hadn't been discussed, that the guys, mind us supposed to say, what are you going to charge us for doing this? I'm not charging, you know, I'll pay to go. So I said, and then he thought, I said, well, he said, I can't quite remember now, but 20 quid or something like that, which was quite good money. Maybe it could have been more, I can't quite remember. So he says, okay, yeah, it's all right. He says, the boat. I thought, what, you're charging me? He says, yeah, it's all right, don't worry about it. So I'll send you the money. He said, now the thing is, put us ashore, we want to go ashore now, and what we want you to do is, oh by the way, our boss is on the way here. Because we told him it was a really big mine and it was in perfect condition and it was full, and we were going to tow it out and blow it, he wants to come here and see it done. He told me that on the beach, and I said, oh, he said, if once he gets here, he'll be messing about. So I said, well, I am a bit stuck for time. Sure, if you want to do it, just tell us that, yeah, and we'll do it, you know. So that's, we went out, and then he said, put us ashore. He says, if the boss gets in touch with you, the naval officer, whatever he was, gets in touch with you, because he's flying to Valley, and then they bring him here, the helicopter. He said, just tell me, you land us on the beach, and we're going looking for the accommodation somewhere, and you don't know where, but we'll see you in the pub tonight. So that's what happened. Now then, more than that, and we did see him in the pub, we did have a nice time, almost forgotten. But tomorrow in the paper is this picture of us all stood on the beach, like that, hands in pockets, like looking at this mine, you know, the constables there with their hats on and all that. Now then, I knew one of the policemen quite well. He was Robin Hughes, yeah. He was a bobby at Ross-on-Sea. Came to see me. He'd been out fishing with me a few times. Oh, he says, well, you're right, somewhere we are, you know, John. I said, what's the matter? He said, I mean, mine and the picture in the paper. Oh, what's wrong with that, like, you know? He said, we're stood there with our hands in our pockets. He said, and the chief's seen us within a national paper with our hands in our pockets. He says, we're not supposed to be seen like that. So I said, well, oh, crikey. I said, well, could I go and have a word with him? He said, well, what could you do? I said, I'll think of something. I'm good at thinking of something. So I went to the police station, I had to make an appointment, went to the police station, whoever it was charge of the station was there, Mr. Povah to say, oh yes, he's expecting you. So I went in, so Mr. Povah, please meet you, and all that, yeah. What can I do for you? He says, you did a very good job on that mine, thank you very much for all the effort you put in, you know. What can I do for you? I said, well, actually, I said, one of the bobbies, Robin Jones, and his colleague, who was down there that day, I said, I know Robin reasonably well, you know, because we have anyone with boats have got a lot to do with the loading police because of robberies and picking bodies up, that's quite often. And so he says, yeah, he said, well then I said, well, did he tell you why he had his hands in his pockets? He says, no, that's why I'm telling you why, because when I got ashore and saw Robin there and his mate, I said, hey you two, put your hands in your pockets, I don't want you fiddling around with anything here, you might damage me bloody boat. So he says, alright, I'll go. So that went off okay. Now, can I answer any questions you'd like to go?
What year were you ferrying them?
Well, that's it, is it? Sorry to upset you ladies. Oh, tea time, right? Oh, right. I think Manny was asking-
What year were you ferrying them across the river? Because is it the end of the estuary or something?
The end of what?
At the end of the estuary we were ferrying them?
No, Sydenham Avenue, do you know, Rill?
Yeah.
Where the fairground was, opposite the fairground. Just downriver a little bit.
What's wrong with the bridge? I wasn't in there.
Oh, the Blue Bridge was there?
Yeah.
Yes, but it's a long way. If you're on the beach at Kimmel Bay, you're like from here to that Clocker Bay, from the amusements and everything that's going on, and the rock stalls and all that, and you've got to go all the way around, because the quay was private then, you see. Yeah, the quay was, that was the reason that we went there from there.
It was
So it was
about
very, very popular.
1948,
Sorry?
49. It was about 1948, 49, because I used to go on it.
I think Neil was one of those young ladies in those days. Lovely handful in those days, I'm his sister.
The timber yard was private,
Yeah.
so you couldn't actually get onto the end on the sand. So it was a penny. Okay, penny. And John would take us over.
Thank you.
If the girls were good enough looking, it'd be for nothing. Don't tell,
I think
they
we just
tell their mum when they got home.
What's the latest with the
Naomi's eldest sister is one of my sister's best friends. She probably has one of those cakes, but make me simple.
John, what's the latest with the Resurgam?
The latest with the Resurgam is where it was first found. It's still out there at sea line on the seabed. For those of you who don't know, I can't even remember the date it went down. It was just over 100 years ago. I can't quite remember exactly. 1880s, I think. It was a submarine that had been built in Liverpool by an inventor who was also a minister, and he built this submarine and sailed it, and the idea was he was hoping to sell it to the Navy. He had to get it to, but when he got to Rill, it was in Rill for a short while, and in fact a propeller was made for it in the iron foundry used to be down here. One or two other bits was made for it, because something was wrong with the ones it had on it. And he went out to sea and sort of, he was being escorted by a steam yacht. And this steam yacht was supposed to be towing it down to the south coast, and they left Rill in poor conditions. And when they were not too far away from Rill, the steamship had problems. So the engineers, the three men on the submarine, I must have survived on it, I do not know, with a fire. It wasn't as big as this room. And it had the fire, they had this fire really going to create the steam to drive it underwater. Anyhow, the yacht was in trouble, so the crew of the submarine went aboard the yacht to try and help them, the steam yacht, to try and help them fix the motor, because they were obviously invented these ships, so they were good engineers. But when they got aboard, the tow rope broke, and the submarine disappeared out of sight in the bad weather. The steamship went to Mosting, where it was in collision. The next day he was going to go out and look for the submarine because the weather didn't improve. The next day when it sailed, it was in collision with another boat, and the collision, both of the ships sank. So the submarine's been missing forever since. A number of people, all sorts of people were looking for it. It's been one of mine, I took up diving, and that was one of the things I'd love to have found, and we did get stuck. I mean, it's the technicality. When you go towing your nets around the seabed, every now and again you get stuck. There's all sorts of things. I mean, wreckage, sandbanks, rocks, all sorts of things that you can get stuck on. Anchors, loads of anchors. Depends how big they are, whether you can lift them up or not. But and initially when you're on, you put a little mark on your chart where there's something, and it builds up, and there's literally thousands of them on, and you can't check them all. But I did get stuck once, and we did have a dive down there, but it wasn't very big, and I couldn't recognise it. The visibility was nilch, so we just ignored it. But that was the spot. Years later, another fishing boat got his net stuck. In fact, he called for me on the radio. Could I help him get his net back? But he didn't get through to me for some reason. So we called another diver who we knew, who wasn't over keen on going with him. But he said, well, you know, my net's stuck. And we've done this fella, this dive, a few favours with other good wrecks. And they didn't know what it was. So anyhow, when he went out with it, as soon as he went in the water and got to the bottom, he knew straight away with the resurgam. And there's been lots of discussion. Yeah, it's all sort of. First of all, it was built in Birkenhead, England, which is in England. It came to Rhyl, which is Wales, and it's in the sea, which is in a disputed whether it's England or Wales. It's right near the borders, you know. But its last place it sailed from was Rhyl, but it was owned for. So it goes the complication. Of course, the grandson. Do you want to say something?
No, it's not. No.
The grandson of the inventor, he came over here and they've been found, and they did a very good survey. There's lots of pictures of it on the bottom. But initially, when it was first found, a while ago now, when it was first found, I had a good idea, and I thought that, because it was this, what should we do? The aquarium on the promenade hadn't long been built, and I thought, and they were taking their water from the sea, and this thing needs really looking after. You see, when we take it out of the water, it's got to be looked after for a long period of time in salt water. Where can they take it? So I thought that what we should have done was steal it, take it from where it was, put it in the aquarium on the bottom, turf the fish out, although even it doesn't matter much, and put it in the aquarium, and then you would have the resurgam in this aquarium, underwater, on the promenade. Now, just an example I used when I approached the people, at the time, the lady, the manageress there, I knew very well. She was the daughter of a friend of mine, and yeah, she thought it was quite a good idea, but the bosses were a bit, oh, I don't know, will we get into trouble? Well, I said, to be honest with you, it doesn't matter. The more trouble, the better. I said, think of the publicity you'll get for the aquarium, and everyone will come and see it. I said, for example, if the Emperor of Japan wanted to see the resurgam, which is the world's first steam-powered submarine, it's here in Rhyl, and you're going to have to come here to Rhyl to see the damn thing. If the Queen wants to see it, you're going to have to come here to see it. But unfortunately, there was so it didn't happen. But it would have been easy, because it's not all that big.
Why is it talking telephone numbers in money when it comes to raising it?
Well, it's not so much the raising it, it's the looking after it afterwards, because whoever does it would be committed to look after it for years to come. I mean, the Mary Rose found all that time ago, and it's still not finished yet, you see. And the Mary Rose was, well, just the fact that it was a rather old ship in reasonable condition, but the resurgam was the very first. Anyhow, that's the way that happened.
Can I just ask you, you mentioned that you were around when the hovercraft
Yes.
was going out to Rhyl. Was there any problem with that? Because my husband was on it.
Were you? Oh, right. Well, we can't blame you, can we? Yes, well, I mean, as you know, it was the world's first hovercraft. It was the idea was operating from Rhyl to... sorry? New Brighton, that's it, yeah. And the weather was a bit... Well, it had done several trips. But we had, I mean, they kept at the Sandals at the harbour, and at the time that hovercraft was there, sea stories. I was married. I digress for a minute. No, I'll finish the hovercraft. Yeah, so we lived on a houseboat, and the hovercraft was on the Sandals, and we could get to it and see it a lot. We knew the people, the skippers and all that, and the old, you know, and all the men that worked it. And when we were looking at it, it was going to be rough, and they wanted a big anchor. No problem. There was an anchor at the harbour in Charles Jones, which would do the job. But when we looked at it, we thought, where are you going to fasten the anchor? A ring on the screw, pull that off. I don't think so. I don't think so. Well, we were sceptical, but that's what they used. They made it fast to this ring, and then the storm came, the ring broke off, and the hovercraft was washed onto the promenade and damaged beyond repair. So that's how that came to be like that. Hovercraft. But yeah, it was, and of course the lifeboat attempted to do a rescue on it. But by that time it was already on the beach, but the lifeboat was very close in amongst all those waves and the promenade, doing what they could. But it was smashed up. Anything else, please? Did I start to say something just now? Oh yes, yes, if I may. Are you all right for another few minutes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sort the tea out.
Right. Well, in those days, did my national service came out, did my national service in Chip. Now I've got a poor memory, I told you that. Anyone else done national service?
Yeah.
Right, I'll just about guarantee you all know your numbers. 23006946, gone up over Sept. If you forgot any of that, you didn't get paid, did you? You had to march up, stand to attention, and reel off your number. And they'd be looking like where you walked from. See if there's any footprints where you walk, because the floors were polished. And if there was any footprints, they had footprints, what our camp did, it had footprints, you know, on the floor, and you're supposed to put your feet in that. Look at the state of it, you better get this floor clean. I'm just going out, get that floor clean.
Not that we want you to shut up. But
Go on, nobody's
just
all
to
them.
kind of
Far too many. Right, so just going back, and I'll finish off after this story. What time do you normally finish?
Now, we leave at 9.
Do you? I might be late. Okay, right. Well, I did my national service, and just before I went in, I met my girlfriend, and then when I finished my national service in March the 4th, that's it, March the 4th, 1956, and in September of that year we got married, and we lived in the attic room in mother-in-law's boarding house next to the Abbey pub in Rill, in Abbey Street. Just a one-room, self-contained. And one day I was in the harbour on my own. The weather was blowing awful. I was getting wet and cold. And Bobby Gartside, who was the owner of one of the large passenger boats in Rill, he had a shed down by the railway. So I went down there to scrounge a cup of tea and what have you, out the rain. And in the course of conversation, he had a big shed on the edge of the riverbank with a boat in it. So I said, what's that boat you got in the shed there, Mr. Gartside? He said, oh, it's a houseboat. And I'm like, what's that for? He says, a houseboat. Yeah, what's it for? People to live on. Have you not seen it? I said, no. He said, you go down, where do you want, John? It was night, it was the evening. So I went and had a look, and it was, I said, oh, right. So I went back to him, I says, well, where would you have this? He says, well, anywhere you want, you know. Just whatever you can get it moored up somewhere. You know, in the middle of the river. He says, yeah, anywhere you want. So I said, oh. He said, you interested? I said, yeah, sounds a good idea, that. He said, what would Pam say? He knew my wife. He said, what would Pam say? I said, why? And I says, you know, that sounds a good idea to me. How much do you want for it? £150. He said, how much are you paying now? I says, £1.50 a week. He said, right, pay me that and you can have the boat. Take the boat, just keep paying me the rent. So I thought, yes, you know. So I went home and I went into the house and Pam was there. I said, right, put your wellies on and put some waterproofs on and we're going down the harbour on our bicycle and we've got to take a tilly light each with us. Do you know what tilly light? Oh yes, you're old enough to know what they are. So we went down the harbour. Mr. Garside had gone then, you know, so I took Pam down and said, I took it in this space, and it's not all that bright, you know. And she said, what are we supposed to be looking at? I said, this boat. She said, that's what you think? He says, not a lot. So she says, well, what are you looking at for? I says, well, I was thinking of buying it. She says, what for? I said, it's a houseboat. What? This is a houseboat. What do you want that for? She said, well, have a look first. So she went in, she said, there was about 8 cabins on it. 8 little cabins, you know. I thought it was bloody brilliant. So she said, I said, well, I've got something to tell you. He says, what's that? I said, I bought it. I said, what for? I said, because we're living on the house from next week. He said, what? He goes. The deal was, we already had a cat, which had jumped out the window at the house in Abbey Street. We already had that cat, but Pam said she wouldn't come on the houseboat unless we got her a dog. Most of you folks are Rutland people, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you obviously know some of the Bowers family?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah, well, we bought the dog off one, yeah. And when we go in to collect it, there were several pups running down. Are you one of the Bowers?
No, I'm not, no.
You're not good looking enough. So anyhow, we got the dog for her, and then we're going to have the boat, and all my mates thought it was a brilliant idea. Brilliant, you know. We've got somewhere to go now, you know. But then, anyhow, to cut a long story short, I moved it down the river, where those very nice new bungalows are now on the Povah Bay side, just upriver of the old bridge. And yeah, I built a quay wall there, and we put the boat alongside it, and within a fortnight, Pam really liked it. If you asked her now, she'd go back on it tomorrow. Yeah, so she really enjoyed being on the houseboat after a while, and that again opens up a packet of other stories.
Did you have services on that then, John?
Sorry?
Did you have services on it?
Well,
Electricity and...
you can see the way I talk, that there's always a way to do something. And there was a builder's yard then. The old lifeboat station used to be on the site, and the owner of the place was Mr. Alan Wilson, the builder, and his partner, who was Mr. Dobie, who was the estate agent. And I knew Mr. Wilson quite well. I'd known him for years, like, you know, he had the very nice bungalow at the end. Basically, that bungalow's still there. And yeah, I got on well with Mr. Wilson, so I asked him, although it was his land, the water wasn't, he only owned the land. So I asked him, and he was tipping his rubble down there. As a builder, you know, he used to tip all the rubbish down. It was a thing that was done. So I asked him, any chance of me building a quay wall alongside his property, you know, just off your, just going to increase the size of it, because no one knew, there was no boundaries, you know. So yeah, he said, oh, Johnny got on well, so we built that, and then a pal of man who worked for Man Web says, why don't you ask Mr. Wilson if you can plug into his electric? That seemed like a good idea, so I asked Mr. Wilson, he says, yeah, that's right, John. Yeah, okay, I mean, it's only going to be a simple light, isn't it, you know, group. So I said, well, yes, the amount of electric we use here, he said, it doesn't matter, carry on, just use it, so I used that, and then not long after, I thought we could do some water here, rather than carry it. And there was a tap not far away. He said, yes, I can join on to that if you want, John. Yeah, so how do you? No, I said, just bring me a feed of fish now and again, I'll be fine. So we did that, and so we had electric, and we had and we had the water, which are the main things, and it was great. The trouble is, we became too bloody popular. Our friends, taking you as examples, you would park your bloody car in his drive to come on my boat, and it'll be here long, you know. Don't park, no, what are you going on with? Anyway, in the end, they got to the stage where we said, John, I'm sorry about this, but you're going to have to shift. So I moved the boat down then to the quay wall at Rill, and that's when the hovercraft was there. That's when it was 1962. So we had it there, but we really enjoyed it on the houseboat, yeah, really good. And it did become very popular. And there's a heap of stories with that. Everything I do seems to be loads of stories.
Well, I'm sorry, John, but I'm afraid it'll have to be another day. Would you like to give us
And one other interesting thing, I've always wanted to be a fisherman all my life. And I enjoyed it from school days to now. I've never really wanted any holidays. I've never wanted to go. I'd go on holidays, but from the duress, because I love it, you know. And all the youngsters who've grown up, but also, there's not one I've fallen out with. we're all very good fun. I love it, love it, love it.
Good.
And I enjoy coming and talking to nice people like yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you.